Thank you, Kirsten. I'm having a little bit of allergy challenges here tonight with my throat, so if you can't hear me, let me know. I will speak up as loud as possible, but I'm also going to try and drink water during the time. So you guys in the front row have to deal with the water maybe spilling on you as I grab and mishandle. How many of you have heard of General Douglas MacArthur? Right. How many of you knew he was from Wisconsin? It's pretty neat. There's the top ranking cadet in the Corps of Cadets at West Point. It's called the first captain. And the first captain in his quarters, his or her quarters, has a plaque with all the names of the previous first captains on it, etched into this wooden plaque. And I had the honor of sitting in the first captain's quarters, not as the first captain, but I was up for an award from the first captain as a cadet there. And I looked up and I saw that plaque, and I saw Douglas MacArthur, and then his home state of Wisconsin. And I thought, wow, there's a lot to be proud of in this state. There are a lot of great things that come out of this state. There are a lot of great things that come out of this country. Right now, we're at a battle. We're at a crossroads to determine whether or not we're going to continue going down that great path that's generated so many wonderful things, not only for us fellow Americans, but for the world. We've done so many great things for people across the globe, more than any other society has in the history of mankind. And West Point has always been at the forefront of that. West Point graduates have always been at the forefront of that. Talking about Douglas MacArthur, on the 12th of May in 1962, he was accepting the Sylvanus Thayer Award in front of the Corps of Cadets and gave a speech, the Duty, Honor, Country speech. And he said, duty, honor, country. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be. They are your rallying points. To build courage when courage seems to fail. To create hope when hope becomes forlorn. To regain faith when there seems to be little cause for faith. And those three words, duty, honor, and country, have led the charge since West Point's inception. They won the battle at Normandy. They led the charge at Normandy. They won the battle at Gettysburg. They've won wars from the beginning of our country up till the very present day. And the war that we're at right now is no different. The battle we have right now with our future, with where this country is going, still requires duty, honor, and country. And it's not something that just West Point graduates have a monopoly on. It's all of you as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here tonight. And you recognize the three words of duty, honor, and country are at constant battle with the most significant threat that we face as a nation right now, which is fraud, waste, and abuse. And if there is an antidote to what we need to challenge ourselves to overcome every day, it is our principles, our values, our core convictions. And all those can be summarized in why we're here tonight. Can be evaluated through a lens of duty, honor, and country. And like West Pointers, all of you, you're here to confront the battle head on. Take the issue, not back down from it. And when you have that, when you have your principles and your values and your core beliefs behind you, there's no way you can lose. I'm bullish, I'm optimistic, I'm very excited about the future of this country, even though right now it seems like there might not be much cause for reason to be excited about it. I'm excited about it because I know that I'm in the trenches with each one, every one of you. I know that when I look to my right and I look to my left, I see brothers and sisters in this battle that want to take their country back. It's not about some empty rhetoric, not about saying that it's about hope and change. It's about improvement. It's about getting back to basics. It's about following the Constitution. It's about sticking to the word that our founding fathers wrote in this book, understanding what it means and not deviating from it. It's about taking the harder right over the easier wrong, always, and never being content with a half-truth when we can win the whole truth. That's what makes this country great. And I'm honored I'm glad. I'm so blessed to be an American with all of you. That's a really brief overview of where I'm coming from with my campaign. I don't want this to be a talking to. I really want this to be a talking with. So I invite your questions now. As Kirsten said before, don't give me softballs. I didn't travel here from Watertown to be placated like that. I want to know what's your concern. I want to know what you value and what you're worried about. Because this campaign truly is about your issues, your concerns, not mine. This campaign is about how do I go to Washington and represent you to tackle the issues that you have and the barriers you face every day. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Yes, if you're elected, will you support auditing the Federal Reserve?
I will.
Okay.
Absolutely. The Federal Reserve has too much of our money, too much control over our lives when it comes to being in control of our money. It needs to be open to our audit on a regular basis. Yes. Thanks.
Dave, the media right now and the news is just flooded with information about the oil spill in the Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
And today, our leadership had a meeting with the private industry.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you feel, or how do you feel the federal government should be involved with private industry in a situation like this situation?
Yeah, the federal government should be involved to the point where it is removing obstacles, removing hurdles, removing bureaucratic barriers so that a private industry can go in, a private company can go in and clean that up. Right?
Can I ask a follow-up?
Please do, sure, yeah.
How do you feel they're doing?
That's a softball. I'm sorry, softball questions are outlawed. They're doing spectacular. No, they're absolutely. It's horrendous. It's an embarrassment to see how poorly this government is moving on this.
So what should they have done different, or how would you support them?
Well, okay, I'll give you one example. The state of Louisiana has been asking for not months, weeks, for extra sand to build off-coast sand barriers so that the oil wouldn't be able to make it into their marshes and into the very delicate ecosystems that is now permeating and damaging potentially permanently. There's no reason why the federal government couldn't have lifted restrictions on getting sand down there so they could build those berms and those.
I think we all agree with that, but
Yeah.
how as a senator would you be able to improve that situation?
Well, there's not. That's a very fair question, and you recovered from your softball pretty well. By leading on it. Now, I know that sounds general. I know that sounds kind of generic, but let me explain. When you have an issue in front of you, lots of times people say, "How can you, as one member of the U.S. Senate, make a difference? How can you make a difference in our lives, or how can you take Washington, it's headed in this one direction, and move it in another, being one person at that pivot point?" And I like to illustrate that with a story that I think paints a pretty good picture. When I was the summer before my senior year at West Point, I was on what's called an academic enrichment program. It was basically an internship with the Hydrologic Engineering Center in Davis, California, as part of the Corps of Engineers. And all week long, I worked with a whole bunch of really, really smart engineers. Most people call them geeks. I call them very smart engineers, seeing as how I was with them. And we'd work 6 or 7 days a week, 12, 14-hour days every day. And Central California, Northern California has got a water problem, right? So what we were doing is we were working on reservoir modeling programs and allowing the water supply to constantly be refilled at a regular rate, predictable to the public's. Details are really not exciting. But we worked such long hours that we're stuck in this lab for so long of a time that we figured, one weekend we're going to take a day off and we're going to go whitewater rafting. So, inevitably, when you take a bunch of hydrology nerds out of a lab and put them in a boat in a river, they're not going to be excited about whitewater rafting, they're going to be looking at the flow characteristics of the water, the coefficient of friction on the bottom of the riverbed. And when that happens, of course, and the walls of the canyon you're in start to close in, and you don't recognize it, and you look down and you see the water turning white, and you start to go around this big S curve in the North Fork of the American River in Sacramento, you don't see the huge rock that's in the middle of this water. And when you're whitewater rafting, rocks are not friendly to you. And we came around this curve, had no idea what to do. We're all whitewater rafting neophytes, and we hit the rock.